Hi, it's Danny. I hope you're doing good. And we're going to take a look in this video at Logic Pro 10, a deconstruction of a track, a garage house tune from my new EP, which is the Summer Collection 2021 on Just Underground Recordings. It's a track called On My Mind. It's already had some immense support from DJs, so thanks to everybody supporting. And I'm going to take you behind the scenes on this release. We're going to take a look at the drum programming, the choices of sounds, the structure arrangement, and also at the mastering chain that I'm using at the moment. Okay, so let's just dive in. Now the beats, you can see the Machine Plus. This is something that I have really started using for my beat programming, and for me it's brought a lot of fun back to the process. So let's just take a look at what's going on here. So this is a machine kit, and this is the main backbeat of the actual track. You can see what I've done is I've actually taken the MIDI from Machine and exported it and brought it through. Let's come onto the mixer, and you can see here that I've separated the elements out. Now the kick drum is running through a process here that I want to highlight. So I've got this SP1200. Well, it's called the SP950, but it's based on the SP1200. So what this is doing is creating this graininess on top of that kick. So I'm going to turn it off. That's what it sounded like before, but I wanted it to have a bit more of a vintage vibe. So that's running here. It's a plugin by Wave Tracing that I really enjoy using. And I've also made it mono here, as you can see. So that's got a really focused bottom end for the beat. So that's what's going on with that one. Let me take this off. So the rest of these, individually routed out, and in some cases some EQ being used on the Logic mixer, as you can see, just to help set everything together. The other thing that I'm going to highlight, and this is something that I have been doing when I'm using Logic Pro 10, if I want to add an extra texture on top of the beats that I program, sometimes I go scanning through the Apple loops and I do find some interesting things. And so here there is a beat called Blueprint beat. I'm going to solo. And it's very simple, but there was something about that layered on top when I was browsing through the different loops that I felt added an extra dimension to my beat. So let me take that off. I'm going to play this, but then, now of course at the very beginning, my beat is quite stripped back. Let me take that forward. One thing that's probably here we go. So it's also muting the channels here. So let me just see if I can do something here. So I've got these output to bus 10. So what I'll do is I will just solo the beats here. There we go. So that's my programming. All of the elements coming from Machine. And now, so the Blueprint beat is very, very light and adds some extra texture to kind of fill out the space. Now on top of that, I've got the remix shaker loop from the Apple Loops collection as well, which is bubbling away with those high frequencies in the background. Adds a really nice energy to it. So you can see there the beats are a combination of different elements and also a little kind of skippy element coming through here. And let me take solo off actually so you can hear that. So once again, a little bit of a loop element chopped up and arranged slightly differently to before this time. And that's the beat. So we've got some other elements coming in now, some musical elements. It's probably no surprise that I'm using the Arco string again. All right, so this is a real mainstay of my productions. Korg M1, this is the Arco string. So you can see there the notes. And then also I've got a high string. Let's see what we got here. Once again, M1, high string patch, real classic for me. And then we've got a bass line actually. I'm going to bring this in. Let me show you what I did for the bass. This is a Native Instruments plugin called Super 8, which I used to create a brand new patch. So you can see here, Danny Bass. So this is a bass sound that I literally programmed for this track. And of course, if you have the same instrument, you can take the settings visually, copy these and you can be able to use it for yourselves. So that's there. And then of course we got the synth brass, which is very important. And by the way, what we're doing here is stripping down the musical elements on the actual full release. If you buy the complete collection of tracks, you also get to download a music only version of this and some of the others as well. So you'll be able to use this kind of thing in your own DJ mixes. So let's take a look at the synth brass. And if you've been watching any of my other videos, you would have seen I do tend to use the Korg Triton a lot. So this is a patch called Detuned Syn Brass. And this has got a lovely, lovely vibe to it. I'm going to show you in isolation. It's used a lot later. Now what I've got here is kind of like an intro sequence. And I'm just going to show you that if you take a look at the MIDI, you can see that this is less regular. So you've got the 2 chords, space. So it's deliberate. So it very slowly introduces that element in terms of the track. That's the first thing you're hearing of that particular sound. Then to pick up the energy as we head towards the first breakdown, it's more regular. So it's kind of looping, as you can see. In fact, I used the looping capability. So that's building up with the other elements. And I'm going to bring on the automation just to show you here that I used the automation so there is a filter. And this is the Filter Freak from Sound Toys, which I use a lot. So you can see now that the chords have evolved into something a bit different. And the fact that they're different is being kind of reinforced by the fact that the filter is evolving that over time. So it feels fresh. You know, we had the intro chords and now we've got the main chords. And these are running in conjunction with a vocal hook. So what I'll do is I'll bring that in so you can hear it. All right, so let me just find it. It's over here. So this is where the title of the song came from.
I need a reason why you're always on my mind. I feel like I can fly.
And I'll be honest with you, you know, for me, when these vocals were dropped onto the backing track, this was the moment I knew that I had something. And what I tend to do is I make my musical backgrounds and then I go through vocal samples, you know, through libraries. And one of the new ones I got was this Slate Digital collection, because I'm a Slate Digital subscriber and I use their plugins a lot. But this is a collection of vocals and a lot of them were very, very heavily processed with a new pitch shifting plugin. But they also had the raw vocals were supplied too. And when I dropped this one on, I was scanning through. It was almost like a match made in heaven. So I got to thank everybody over at Slate Digital for actually making that moment happen. It was quite unique. I'll never forget it. So coming back to that, let me take off solo and let's take a look at that section again. So we had the intro chords, we had the string, the bass line, all building up towards this breakdown. So let's just have a listen at that section. And of course, there are some other little vocal textures here in the background. Resonant pad here from the Triton, which was used to add another bit of hype on there. So that's the stereo res sweep. An effect sample from Wave Alchemy, that white noise kind of texture descending down.
I need a reason why you're always on my mind.
The brass is filtering down. Clap comes in.
You're always on my mind.
So what I did there was, after the last always on my mind phrase, I kind of took a pause. You can see that I literally cut everything. And then I introduced these tom hits, which are very kind of associated with some of the productions that I've done. If you think back to Spend the Night, the original, you know, the remix that came out that had these toms, I've used that kind of a sound since. And this is very reminiscent of that, and it's deliberate. Okay, so look. Have a listen. This is just a drum hit. But also what I'm doing is I'm changing the pitch. You can hear that. So it's rising slightly. So that's with some MIDI automation. And it's just from an old samba tune, that particular hit. And it has a lot of energy in that particular pattern. And I'll show you the timing if you take a look. So, you've got your usual 16 hits here, but you can see there's some variety in terms of the programming there. So there's a real vibe to that. And then everything, of course, kicks back in. Nothing new at the moment. Let's have a listen again.
You're always on my mind.
Once again, some Wave Alchemy white noise to create a real nice extra set of energy on top in that moment. Now we've got an organ coming in as a contrast. Same chords. I really feel that's a lovely kind of like juxtaposition of the original chords. And you're going to want to know what that is, aren't you? So let's just take a look. Cool Triton once again. This is a patch called the BX3 Velo Switch. Back to the vocal hook, but I'm alternating call and response between the brass and the organ. You see that very clearly here. In fact, what I'll do is I'll move this up. Little vocal samples here and there, just add a little bit of interest. And then we're breaking it down.
I need a reason why you're always on my mind. I feel like I can fly. You're always on my mind.
So once again, the toms. Now we're into, in a way, an echo of the intro. So it's just a bit of kind of a rest, kind of like a more relaxed, light-hearted kind of feel to it. And it's pretty much the same as the intro. Slight differences, but it's pretty much the same. And what it does is it allows me to have a second breakdown that is slightly different to before because it focuses very much on the organ. You can hear that. But there's automation going on with the synth brass as well. So that's coming up. See, feel it gradually reveals itself. Also the kick drums keeping the momentum going.
I need a reason why.
Back to the vocal hook.
Always on my mind.
This time high string, adding the tension.
You're always on my mind.
And now this time, we're full on with the organ and also the synth brass. And the Arco string patches. A few more effects than before, so it's a lot more hyped for the second round.
I need a reason why.
Bring the vocal back. But then what happens is that it repeats a specific portion of the vocal coming up, which is the main hook. You can hear that now.
Always on my mind.
So that's to allow for a slight difference to what you've heard before. And also repetition is great in the club. Really good.
Always on my mind.
So really now, once again, heading into the realm of the next track for the DJ. So gradually stripping elements down over time and keeping a nice groove going so that it's an easy one to mix with. So we should see that polysynth being filtered down. There we go. And actually what we've gone back to is the intro or the middle section on the outro. Very simple now. It makes it very easy for somebody to bring something new in. So this goes on for a decent amount of time like this. So that's showing you the elements, the plugins that we use to create the track, showing you the structure and what we've done there in terms of the idea behind that. And then what I want to do also is I want to show you now the latest version of the mastering chain, which is very, very simple on here. And this is the only things that I used I did explore some other options, but I felt I was getting the right degree of punch and energy, clarity, all these other things just by doing this, because I did pay good attention to the mix. I was making sure that I was balancing all the sounds as I went. And what I've got here is 2 plugins on my master. That's it. Okay, I got the fresh air, so I'm using just a little bit of the mid air and the high air. Then I've got also the final limiting stage is the Brainworks BX Limiter True Peak, and I'm using this all the time. I love this thing. You know, for me, it's the perfect mastering limiter. And so what I've got going on here is I'm pushing it. I think my max, the LUFS that I was getting to is about 8. I'm not sure. I can actually put this on again. Let's go and take a look.
Mine.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, my RMS is about 7. So, you know, for me, this felt like it was the right level of competitiveness against other tracks, but without squashing it to death. Look at the love zone. But anyway, for me, it sounds good, all right? And so I am using the XL button here. Sometimes I find the foundation controls really quite useful. Some of the tracks that I've made, I've ended up having them a little bit too bass heavy, so I'll kind of like tilt things a little bit here. That's quite useful. But I do love this this mastering limiter. For me, it's giving me the sound that I'm happy with. So that's it. It's a track. It's called On My Mind by Danny J. Lewis, part of the Just Underground Summer Collection 2021. And it's available on TrackSource pre-order right now. And it's going to be available for download on the 24th and then on streaming from the 25th. So 4 other tracks, should I say, on the release with different flavors. So I will try to get some deconstructions done of those tracks too. All right, that's it as usual. If you have comments, questions, please put them down below and I'll see if I can respond on that. But in the meantime, before the next video, just take care and look after yourselves.